Most people who have scoliosis are told that exercises won't help. But there's a problem with that phrase. It's simply not true. Take Charlotte, who reduced her curve by 15 degrees in just 3 months. The difference between her and almost everybody else is that she stopped doing things that don't work and instead learned the specific scoliosis exercises that helped straighten and strengthen her spine. And today, I'm going to show you the exact same exercises that she did, which could help you slow down, stop, or even reverse your scoliosis curve. All right, for these exercises, we're going to use the example of a reverse S-shaped curve. So if this is someone's spine, from behind, they're going to have an apex on the upper right back, which will also cause a rib hump on this side and potentially some scapular winging. And they will have a apex on their lower back to the left, which will cause a thickening on this side. Okay, this is the most common type of scoliosis. 80% of people with an idiopathic scoliosis have this type. So what we want to do here is put someone in a position where their spine is automatically going to be a little bit straighter. So how will we do that? Well, if we were to lift this left side here by standing on something on the left foot, it would drive the pelvis up on the left but create a change into the lower curve. Well, that's the first thing we're going to do. Then, if we were to lift the left hand up or drop the right shoulder down, because essentially it's the same movement, we would end up moving the upper curve to be a little bit straighter here. Now, scoliosis is a 3D problem. That means it changes in 3 dimensions. Those two corrections were just in 1 dimension. So we also want to think about the rotation. All right, if we bring this arm forward and across, it might drag those ribs forward with it as well. So we're going to do that, and if we step forward with one of the feet, it's going to correct the lumbar rotation as well. So that's 2 dimensions. Now the 3rd dimension is actually forwards and backwards, and that is going to be our first exercise. We're going to work out how to move the spine in what we call the sagittal plane. Okay, so the setup is going to be this. We're going to put a lift, maybe something about 1 inch high, 2 inches, but if it hurts your lower back, just go smaller, under the left foot. And then with the right foot, we're actually going to put it slightly in front of the left foot, and that helps with the rotation of the lower back. Then with the top hand, I'm going to reach up and I'm going to grab hold of something here. Now, I've just got a yoga strap hanging on to something above me, but it doesn't matter if you don't. You can put it on the wall. However, traction is a nice element to put into all scoliosis correction. Okay, so I'm going to hold on to here, and that means if I bend my knees a little bit, I'm going to get some traction in my upper back. Now, to take care of the ribs in the transverse plane, I'm going to take my right hand across in front of me. So now I'm bending down slightly, I've got my left side lifted up, and I'm just going to breathe into this position, breathing in nice and deeply, and then breathing out. Good. What this does is this elongates the spine in the correct alignment, and the breathing goes into the chest, moves the ribs, expands those ribs, which ultimately change the position of the vertebrae due to their connections. And so we're simply using the hydraulic pressure of breathing in and breathing out to start the change with the scoliosis. Now, this is a great place to start if you have pain in your back when you move, because this is going to be a very gentle exercise that creates more motion. Now we've learned how to gently mobilize the spine, we're going to get ready for our first big correction, and that is moving the left hand up over our head to change the spine in what we call the frontal plane. Okay, so I'm into this position here, left foot elevated, right arm across. Now I can let go of my strap here, but I can simply take my left hand up over my head and to the right. That movement should go down to the apex of the top curve, and this straightens that top curve above the apex. And you can do this about 10 or 15 times, and you can sync it with your breath. But the thing about scoliosis is it's 3-dimensional, so just correcting it in 1 plane is enough. So that brings us on to this next exercise. All right, next we're going to go after the spine in what we call the sagittal plane. That's forwards and backwards. So this is great for people who have a kyphosis or just a little bit bent forward from working on a computer or doing something with their hands in front of them for many hours a day. We're going to be in exactly the same setup. This time we're going to hold back onto our strap to get some traction through here. Right hand comes across, pulling those ribs forward. Make sure the hips remain parallel to the wall so you don't rotate your hips, otherwise that would lose the effect of this top hand coming across. Now I'm simply going to nod my head forwards and then lift my chest and head up and backwards. So from the side it looks a bit like this. I'm going forwards like this, and I'm going up and back, forwards, up and back. This is stretching and strengthening all the joints and the ligaments around the upper back in this forward and backwards motion, also called the sagittal plane. But the good news is we don't need to just do this from the top down. We can actually also do it from the bottom up. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So you're going to get into the same position here, and we're going to work on a pelvic tuck. Okay, so you're going to tuck your pelvis forwards using your abdominal muscles to flatten your lower back, and then go into extension, stick your butt backwards. Okay, so it looks a little bit like this, going forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. We can combine that with breathing, so you can breathe in when you do the movements, or even breathe out when you do the movements. It doesn't matter so much. But the special part of this exercise is now we can combine top down and bottom up. Okay, so it's essentially, if you know what the cat-cow is in yoga, we're going to be doing that, but we're going to be doing it standing up. So I'm going to flex here and then extend here. Now I'm going to do this with breathing. So I'm going to breathe in as I go forward. And you might say, well, why am I doing that? Well, actually the lungs really go quite far down at the back. They go down to that bottom rib, that 12th rib. And if we put air into the back, it will actually help the back round a little bit more. So I'm going to do 5 breaths like that. But then as I go forward, I'm going to breathe out. Why am I breathing out? Well, actually, it turns out when you fill your lungs with air, it actually gets harder to flex. So we've got to do the breathing in for 5 and breathing out for 5. And that's very important to use the breath to help with these scoliosis corrections. So it looks like this. Now flex and extend with the breathing in or breathing out. From the back, it looks like this. Right hand comes across, traction through the upper back, and flex and extend. Now, a lot of people have trouble with moving the pelvis from the bottom up, and that's due to tight hip flexors. Very common in people with scoliosis. That brings us to one more plane of motion, which is the transverse plane. And this is the plane that's going to help you correct that rib hump that you can often see when a person bends forward, or if they're wearing something that shows their back, like a bikini or a backless dress, you can see that winging scapula. All right. The setup is the same. Left hand up, right hand across, but this time we're going to take the right hand just that little bit further. Really being careful not to move the pelvis, keeping my abdominal muscles strong, and put some tension in there. And so with this, I'm pulling that rib cage forward and pulling those ribs forward. From the side, it looks like this. Left hand up, get some traction here. Put the hips against the wall if you need to, keep them still like that. And then drive that arm forwards and backwards so that my chest is moving essentially from being straight ahead to 45 degrees to my left. And again, you want to do this with the breathing. You're going to breathe in on 5 movements, breathe out on 5 movements, and that's going to increase the mobility to your upper back. Here's a quick summary of those exercises. All right, bottom up, we're going to correct the pelvis with a lift under that leg here, and we're going to correct the upper curve by moving the top hand up and over to the left. Okay, that's the first movement. Second movement, we're going to be into this position a little bit straighter, and we're going to flex from the top down, bottom up as well, so that the spine is going through that cat-cow flex extension motion whilst being more aligned by the pre-positioning that we have with the hand up and the heel lift. And lastly, we're going to take these ribs forwards by taking that right hand up and across in front of us, and so the ribs are going to move forwards on that right side. So those corrections are going to be a great start for anyone looking to slow down, stop, or even reduce the progression of their curves. That's it for today. If you want to learn more about how specific scoliosis exercises can work and how I can help you apply them, then click the first link in the description below.